This material is a part of the Oklahoma Historical Society's Oral History Program Living Legends collection. This material was originally recorded in the year 1971. We have no month or day on this date. This material is a speech, the State of the State Address for 1971, delivered by Governor Dewey Bartlett before the 33rd Legislature of the state of Oklahoma at the state capitol in Oklahoma City. It was re-recorded on the 20th of December 1985 for inclusion in the permanent collections of the Oral History Program by Judith Michener. Governor Bartlett is introduced by Lieutenant Governor George Nye.
It's my distinct privilege to present to you for his address the Chief Executive of the great state of Oklahoma, with appreciation for his service, the Honorable Dewey F. Bartlett. Governor Bartlett.
Governor Nye, Speaker Privet, President Pro Tem Finis Smith, honorable members of the 33rd Oklahoma Legislature, guests, my fellow Okies, ladies and gentlemen. First, I'd like to mention on part of my wife, Ann, her regret in not being here. She's with her mother, who's very ill in California. But in her stead, my daughter, Joni, is here, and I think she's back in this section. Joni, would you raise your hand? Joni Bartlett. Oh, there she is over here.
Excuse me, Governor. Would you stand again, please? The membership did not say it. Joni's hand. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to Oklahoma City for the start of the 5th annual session of the Oklahoma Legislature. I want to say at the beginning that I apologize for the length of this, and certainly I know the press and I will understand if any of you would like to walk in and out, because it's going to take a little longer than you'd like, nor I would like, but I think still it's important to hit the high points of the various departments and activities in the last 4 years. 8 years of public service to the people of Oklahoma will end for me next week. I value very much this honor and these years, and I thank you for the cooperation I have received as a senator, and most particularly the last 4 years as governor of Oklahoma. My special thanks to your leaders, Senator McSpadden, Senator Smith as President's pro tempore, Representative Privet as Speaker, Senator Garrison and Representative Connor as minority floor leaders. The record of this administration is your record and mine, combined with the efforts of the entire executive and judicial branches of government and thousands of concerned citizens of Oklahoma. Most of you look for solutions to state problems through a Democratic point of view. I from a Republican viewpoint. This competitive difference, I believe, brought out the best in each of us. You look for solutions from the point of view of your constituents in your district, as well as for the benefit of the entire citizenry. I from the point of view of all the citizens. Because of an embryo two-party system, not in spite of it, we have had a competitive yet harmonious relationship. 56 vetoes with only 3 final overrides attest to this fact. This relationship has produced a good record, your record, mine, and that of the executive and judicial branches of Oklahoma state government, the record of this administration. This record is the state of Oklahoma, to which I am required by the Constitution to address myself. During the 4 years of this administration, there is a grand total of $1,116,148,346 appropriated by the legislature. This represents a 46.4% increase over the total appropriations during Governor Bellman's administration, and an increase of 81.6% over the 4 years of Governor Edmondson. During the 4 years of this administration, from fiscal 67 to 71, total appropriations increased by $131 million, or 65.3%. Some of the reasons for this tremendous growth in the state's appropriated revenue are a general growth in the state's economy, an amendment to the Budget Balancing Act, an increase in the cigarette and tobacco taxes, and a more vigorous collection of taxes by the State Tax Commission. For example, 27,700 more state income tax returns were filed last year as compared with the previous year. Reviewing the major functions of state government reveals some astounding accomplishments over the last 4 years. Appropriations to our education system increased by 81.9%, public health and assistance increased by 82.8%, mental health was up 29%, social services 19%, public safety increased 63%, our highway program by 27%, the regulatory services had an appropriation increase of 70%, and natural resources rose 71%. All of this growth and expansion in the services state government provides its citizens has been accomplished over the last 4 years without a general state tax increase. We have experienced economic growth. We have learned to stretch the tax dollar by bringing better efficiency and economy to state government. During the 4 years of this administration, a total of $711 million plus has been or will be invested in new or expanded industry in 67 of the state's 77 counties. According to the companies involved, this industrial growth has created or will create more than 37,000 jobs. A World Trade Specialist added in 1970 to the staff of the Industrial Development and Park Department will develop foreign trade for Oklahoma companies. For the first time in Oklahoma history, the available labor force in our state passed the 1 million mark in each of the last 2 years. Employment has increased to an estimated 994,000 in 1970. This is an increase of approximately 4,600 over 1969 and 71,600 more than in 1966, or a 7.8% increase for the 4-year period. This phenomenal growth and expansion of Oklahoma's economy has been the work of a most competent industrial development team in state government, coupled with hundreds of leaders at the local level. There is a new enthusiasm in rural Oklahoma, an enthusiasm that is generated by its proven ability to attract industry and job opportunities. It has shown leadership and civic pride by making the small communities in Oklahoma attractive to industry on the grow. They now face the future with confidence and hope. Assisting in the economic development of Oklahoma are several programs. The Ozarks Regional Commission has spent $4.8 million in Oklahoma over the last 4 years. Oklahoma had the first Economic Development Administration district west of the Mississippi. We now have 6 EDA districts which have developed $27.1 million in federal programs during this administration. Last year, Oklahoma was 4th among the 50 states in EDA expenditures. The Oklahoma Commission for Full Employment, Operation PRO, which stands for Petroleum Retail Ownership, and the Okie-type companies were created to boost minority employment and management in the state. Our tourism program generated an estimated $435 million in expenditures in Oklahoma last year, more than half of which came from out-of-state travelers. 6 years ago, legislation was being prepared to sell the state lodges because of their large indebtedness and low profits. Last year, not only was the debt paid off 2 years in advance, but $690,000 is currently being spent to refurbish the lodges. The management study of state government is saving the state an estimated $20 million a year by stretching the tax dollar, producing additional revenues, and using sound business practices. New programs such as the consolidation of data processing and the creation of a state motor pool were started. The Department of Community Affairs and Planning was created in 1970 to lend state expertise to the local communities in implementing federal programs, overall planning, and coordinating with both the state and federal governments. The program for emphasizing state-chartered banks has increased the number from 199 to 231, thus keeping more money in the state of Oklahoma. The investment of idle state funds handled by the Land Office resulted in $355,000 additional dollars of income in the last 2 years. and the rentals charged on public school lands were made more realistic, providing an increase of $750,000 annually. These two increases directly benefit the school children of Oklahoma. The School Land Office operates a greatly expanded program with 8 fewer employees. Oklahoma leads all 19 states having insurance funds with the greatest percentage of yield from invested monies. A $500,000 refund, the largest in the history of the state, was made in 1970 to the public agencies which buy workmen's compensation insurance from the state. The State Highway Department is currently responsible for a program increased by $25 million, yet administered by 126 fewer employees than in December 1966. The administration's effort to earn an equitable rate of interest on the taxpayers' money on deposit in Oklahoma banks was instrumental in an increase in state revenues of over $5 million annually. Other governmental reforms include the complete overhaul of our penal system. The Department of Corrections was created in 1967 and is now involved in innovative programs such as the pre-release centers and the Link Committee to cut the rate of recidivism. During the last 4 years, our inmate population has increased by 1/3, while appropriations increased by 1/2. The number of probation and parole officers for the protection of the citizens of this state has increased from 13 to 58, increasing the number under supervision from under 1,000 to over 6,000. Construction is underway on a diagnostic evaluation center for adults at McAllister and on a similar facility for juveniles at the Hissom Home in Sand Spring. Oklahoma's judicial system also was revamped during this administration, and Oklahoma is now considered a leader among states in court reform. Judicial salaries were increased significantly. Supreme Court and Court of Criminal Appeals judges now run on their record, and other judicial races are nonpartisan. One of the initial acts of my administration was the establishment of a voluntary judicial nominating commission to recommend qualified persons for appointment to fill judicial vacancies. In 1967, our Constitution was changed to adopt this concept for appointment of our appellate judges. Oklahoma, the only state in the nation to administer its own Office of Economic Opportunity without going through a regional office, is reaching the poor more effectively than other states. This is known by the federal government as the Oklahoma Plan. The state OEO youth program has received national recognition. Among other things, we appointed the first Youth Advisory Council. In order to guarantee equal rights to all our citizens, the Civil Rights Act was passed during this administration. The first black judge and the first blacks on the A&M Board of Regents and the Tulsa Junior College Board of Regents were appointed by this administration. The first 5 blacks are now on the Highway Patrol. The Oklahoma Indian Affairs Commission was created, and the first Oklahoma Indian Trade Fair was held during this administration. One of the hallmarks of this administration has been the unprecedented support of our common school education system. Appropriations increased by 89.3% over the last 4 years, the biggest increase in state history. A grand total of more than $364 million was appropriated to common school education during this administration. For the first time, state monies were appropriated for school counselors, special education, and kindergartens. The number of school counselors has increased from 370 to 540 over the last 4 years. The number of students receiving special education has increased by 191.1%, from 14,117 to an estimated 41,200 during the 4-year period. The number of kindergarten teachers has increased by 83%, and the number of kindergarten students by 51. The average teacher's salary increased by $1,565, and our teachers' retirement program was so completely overhauled that it is now regarded as one of the finest in the nation. In essence, the retirement benefit for a teacher with 40 years of experience has increased during this administration from $180 a month to $340 a month, an increase of 88%. Oklahoma ranks second in the nation in enrollment, with 95.7% of our children between the ages of 5 and 17 enrolled in school. 70% of our high school graduates go to college, compared with a national average of only 62%. Appropriations to the state system of higher education increased by 66.1% during the four-year period. Faculty salaries rose by 31.9%. The first new fully state-supported institution of higher education in Oklahoma in 50 years began operation during this administration when the Tulsa Junior College opened its doors last fall. We greatly increased the output of health and medical technicians to match the needs of the state. This includes a program now underway to increase the output of doctors by 50%. Last fall's freshman class at the University of Oklahoma Medical School enjoyed a 35% increase in enrollment. We also began a rural medical education scholarship fund to attract graduating doctors to the rural areas of Oklahoma. A new closed circuit televised instructional program will soon bring postgraduate courses from 4 Oklahoma campuses to industrial communities in Oklahoma. Our colleges and universities confer 20% more bachelor's, master's, and doctor's degrees than the average state on a population basis. The first state funding of the student loan program began during this administration, guaranteeing for the four-year period $13.9 million in loans to 13,355 students. And plans are underway for the Oklahoma School of Dentistry to open its doors in the fall of 1972. Our vocational technical education program has grown from 4 to 15 schools in the last 4 years and is the envy of most every other state. Appropriations have increased by a remarkable 212%. Skilled training, tailor-made to the needs of new or existing industry, proved to be one of the best tools for attracting new industry to Oklahoma. The first residential rural skills center in the United States is located in the former Job Corps Center at Sulphur, Oklahoma. Our state library system saw its appropriation increased by 83%, enabling the number of counties in multi-county systems to be increased from 8 to 25. Oklahoma has made a substantial investment in its youth through improving our total education system. We have made an investment in our youth and the promise they hold for all of Oklahoma's tomorrows. Oklahoma has also taken positive steps in the last 4 years to preserve and protect our environment. We have passed the Scenic Rivers Act of 1970, the Clean Air Act of 1967, the Solid Waste Management Act of 1970, the Feed Yards Act of 1969, the Open Cut Reclamation Act of 1967, and other legislation allowing tax credits for pollution control investments by private industry. The Department of Pollution Control was created in 1968 and expanded in 1970. Oklahoma is among the top 4 states in the nation in the number of water pollution control projects constructed by municipalities. An environmental seminar was held last year at Oklahoma State University, which resulted in the creation of the Environmental Quality Council. The Arkansas Verdigris River Planning Commission of Oklahoma was created to ensure the orderly development of our new waterway to the sea with particular emphasis on land use and environment. 2 environmental awareness days were held as a statewide cleanup effort and educational program. We instituted a pesticide monitoring program, and there has been increased funding for the environmental programs conducted by the state agencies. To better protect the lives and property of Oklahoma citizens, our state law enforcement system has been greatly improved. The Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation added 6 agents, and all 21 agents are now trained in narcotics and drug abuse control. Last year, the Bureau presented a training course on drug abuse to 848 local police officers and approximately 475 highway patrolmen. During the first quarter of the current fiscal year, the Bureau provided laboratory support to federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies in 1,088 cases involving marijuana and other drugs. This was an increase of 79% over the same period a year ago. To coordinate the attack on drug abuse, Oklahoma was the first state in the nation to create a Narcotics and Drug Abuse Council by executive order. When another training session is completed early this year, our highway patrol strength will have increased by 50%. The Highway Patrol also assumed the responsibility for safety in and around 20 of our major lakes. And the Aviation Division of the Highway Patrol is also assisting in forest fire protection by providing a flying watchtower for costly forest fires in eastern and southeastern Oklahoma. Two-man highway patrol units have been instituted on a limited basis. A statewide law enforcement plan has been adopted, which, along with good leadership from every segment of the population, has made Oklahoma probably the largest state in which there has not been a single death or serious injury as a result of racial or campus unrest. The Office of Interagency Coordination has played a significant role in this excellent record. In highway safety, we have instituted a vehicle inspection program, a breathalyzer test for drinking drivers, a license reexamination procedure, and other safety programs. All but 6 high schools in the state now provide driver education courses and are, for the first time, supported by the state. In the 4 years of this administration, the number of highway deaths per 100 million miles driven has dropped from 5.7 to an estimated 4.6, the lowest in state history. This compares with an estimated national highway death rate of 5.0. Providing additional protection for the public was the passage of the Uniform Consumer Credit Code, which has eliminated loan sharking and has provided credit protection for the consumer. $4 million already have been returned to debtors in the form of checks and credits. Oklahoma, the second state in the nation to receive an exemption of credit transactions from federal control, is the nation's recognized leader in consumer credit protection. To meet the physical and mental health needs of Oklahoma, several steps have been taken. Visiting nurse service has been increased from 4 to 49 counties under the Department of Public Health. The Oklahoma Commission of Alcoholism was created in 1968. There were 2 important achievements in providing appropriate health facilities to rural Oklahoma, one at Marietta and one at Wakita. An immunization program was begun which should immunize 90% of Oklahoma's school children in the next 8 years. Oklahoma is the second state in the nation to close a mental hospital as a result of reducing inpatient population. The snake pit era of mental health facilities in Oklahoma is long past. The Central State Community Mental Health Center in Norman, completed in July of '69, is the first of its kind in the nation. Plans for a similar center at McAllister are underway. To map future plans for better health care, a comprehensive statewide health plan was initiated in 1967. Under the State Welfare Department, we have increased the number of licensed daycare centers to 696 in the last 4 years. The number of children in these centers has increased from 500 to 3,000. Oklahoma ranks second in the nation in the number of rehabilitation cases served per 100,000 people, and it ranks 6th in the nation in the number of cases closed. A new children's code was enacted in 1969. It modernized our laws relating to delinquent, dependent, and neglected children. The age of boys subject to the children's code was increased from 16 to 17. The Taft Mental Hospital is being renovated and is being used by the older boys under the Children's Code. The Welfare Department, during this administration, has spent $68 million on state programs previously supported by the General Revenue Fund. Oklahoma is also a trendsetter in agriculture. We were the first state in the nation to pass the Model Wholesome Meat Act in 1968. We also have attained the status of modified certified brucellosis-free state, and Oklahoma is the leading exporter of registered breeding cattle. In 1967, the sales tax on farm machinery was eliminated. And also of interest to rural Oklahoma is the fact that 208 flood control structures have been built in the last 4 years, bringing the total to 1,477 in Oklahoma. 30% of the watershed dams constructed under Public Law 566 in the nation have been built in our state. Last summer, planning for a statewide water system was initiated. This ambitious program to provide an adequate water supply for every community will cost an estimated $4 billion in federal, state, and local funds over the next 100 years. Our state's transportation system also has made considerable progress during this administration. Long-range programming of highway construction was extended to 5 years, with roads to be built on the basis of need, not political promises. Of 810 miles on our interstate system, 677 are now open to traffic. New interstate segments of 11.8 and 2.5 miles for Oklahoma City and Tulsa, respectively, were approved by the Federal Bureau of Roads. Oklahoma ranks 11th in the nation in the number of miles of four-lane limited-access roads. A 5-year program for widening, improving, and maintaining 55% of our highway system was initiated during the last 4 years. The Act of 1970, permitting the advanced purchase of right-of-way, has already resulted in a substantial savings of tax dollars. The State Turnpike Authority constructed the 53-mile Muskogee Turnpike and the 64-mile Indian Nation B Turnpike, and the Cimarron Turnpike has been validated by the Oklahoma Supreme Court. In air transportation, 14 new airports have been constructed in the last 4 years. Oklahoma now ranks 16th in the nation in the number of airports. And just last week, the Arkansas River Navigation Project was opened on a limited basis. During this administration, the minimum salary of our state employees was increased by 55%, from $200 per month to $310 per month. The state merit system now covers 8 additional agencies or programs and 2,000 more employees. The average monthly retirement benefit for state employees is now $93.58, compared with $27.83 4 years ago. Recently, health and accident insurance plus group life of $12,000 was added. A $99 million hero bond issue was approved by the voters for capital improvements. $67 million will go for higher education. To enrich the cultural lives of all Oklahomans, particularly those in rural areas, the Oklahoma Arts and Humanities Council was funded by the state for the first time in history. These accomplishments in a short period of 4 years are the results of a team effort. I'm proud of the record established by the many capable and dedicated citizens who have occupied directorships and key positions in this administration. I want to pay particularly thanks and express my gratitude to the members of my staff, most of whom are here. I thank them for their tireless efforts to build a better Oklahoma. This administration has demonstrated to the voters and the taxpayers of this state what honest, concerned, and dedicated state government can accomplish without a general state tax increase. I believe the record of this administration, which is reviewed in detail in the appendix on your desks, is a record of progress, economic growth, and improved services to the citizens of Oklahoma. As we look to the future in Oklahoma, let me share with you one of the projects my office has been working on over the last few months that could have unparalleled impact on Oklahoma in this age of space travel. In front of me is one of the prototypes of the space shuttle now being considered by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. The lower half of this model is a booster rocket that is larger than a giant 747 passenger plane. The top half, riding piggyback, is a space orbiting vehicle which is bigger than the 727 jet aircraft. These two vehicles are now in the designing stages of development. They are pollution-free during takeoff and in flight because they burn hydrogen and oxygen, thus emitting only pure water. There's a good possibility that Oklahoma could be the home of the launch site for the space shuttle, as well as play a significant role in its production and maintenance. I recently discussed the technical ramifications of the space shuttle and its orbital mechanics with Oklahoma astronaut Tom Stafford. Based on the launch azimuth and the orbital inclinations involved, Oklahoma provides both a desirable launch and recovery location. The establishment of a space shuttle launch and recovery operation in Oklahoma, besides production and maintenance, would involve a substantial investment of millions of dollars and thousands of jobs over the next decade. The economic impact on our state would be tremendous. The attention that would be focused on the Sooner State would be worldwide. Oklahoma offers a number of advantages over other states in its attractiveness for the launch site and the recovery area. We have good weather at higher altitudes, which reduces the cost of the launch. We have an excellent transportation system with new seaports, major rail lines, major highways, and major international airports. We have a wealth of technical and engineering expertise. Both teams of companies competing for the development and production contracts from NASA have plants in Oklahoma, McDonnell Douglas and North American Rockwell American Airlines. They also have existing facilities that will further reduce the cost of the space shuttle program. Clinton Sherman Air Force Base in western Oklahoma, one possible site for the installation, ranks among the top 5 airport facilities in this country in terms of strength, usability, and length of runway, which is 13,500 feet long. I have written members of our congressional delegation in Washington seeking their support for the nation's space program and Oklahoma's potential future in the national space transportation system. Although I'm leaving the governor's office, I can assure the citizens of Oklahoma I will do everything within my power in the months and years ahead to promote the location of this space-age facility in Oklahoma. I have written members of our congressional delegation in Washington seeking their support for the nation's space program and Oklahoma's potential future in the national space transportation system. Although I'm leaving the governor's office, I can assure the citizens of Oklahoma I will do everything within my power in the months and years ahead to promote the location of this space-age facility in Oklahoma. If this dream of a space port in Oklahoma becomes a reality, it will be the result of work by many citizens in both public and private life. It will be the culmination of efforts on the part of business executives at our major aviation companies in Tulsa, our congressional delegation, you, members of the Oklahoma legislature who have built this state's capabilities for attracting such a facility, the millions of citizens of our state who have invested their work, money, and private efforts in building a better Oklahoma for future generations. It will be the product of a concern for the future of Oklahoma as expressed by an Okie astronaut and an Okie governor. As I take your leave, I feel guilty about one thing, and this is the elimination of your favorite pastime, voting for a bill popular in one area and then sending the hot potato down to the second floor. But perhaps on second thought, you may give in to that impulse. Thank you.
Representative Ford is recognized.
Mr. President, I move that the State of the State remarks of the governor be printed in both journals of the House and Senate.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Any opposed? In comment about the governor's remarks in the beginning of his conversation and the introduction of his daughter and the absence of Ann, Mrs. Bartlett, I hope that they will extend to Mrs. Bartlett the best wishes of this joint session and the illness that is in their family. Senator Terrell is recognized.
Mr. President, if there's no further business to come before the joint session, I now move the joint session be dissolved.
You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Not. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed?